So we're going to do another French menu, if you like, or French option. Okay, we're going to do a cherry clafouti. Okay, I think is it Cherries? I don't know. Anyway, it's cherries. So obviously for that we need some cherries. Now cherries aren't quite in season, but down where I am, it's the Garden of England, and cherries are one of the standard fruits we've got down here. You can thank Henry VIII for that. So I've got 500 grams of cherries, fresh cherries, which I've destalked and pitted. Which I have to say, after about the 6th one, it gets quite easy, a bit messy. And then what I did, this was a couple of hours ago, I de-pitted them, laid them in this dish. Now, if you use like tinned ones or whatever, you might want to slightly macerate them a little bit. Don't mash them up, but enough, because we've soaked them in 3 generous tablespoons of kirsch, okay, and 30 grams of caster sugar. So if the skins are completely intact, they don't soak up so well. But being the way I pitted these, it sort of partly macerated them anyway. So they've been sat in the fridge for a couple of hours at least, in that kirsch and sugar. So we're just going to put that to one side. So that's obviously what you're going to need to prepare beforehand. And now we've got the rest of the ingredients here. And so let's get baking. So I've got my dish here that I'm going to bake it in, okay, and what we want to do is make sure it is well buttered all over, okay. You could use melted butter. We do need melted butter. I've already got some melted. I've got 20 grams of butter melted, but that's to go into the clafouti, into the batter, so I don't obviously want to use any of that, and it's just as easy just to be wiping it over with some softened butter. So we make sure it's all fully coated, okay, and then I'm going to take a little bit of caster sugar and I'm just going to sprinkle it around and on the tabletop. We're just going to, and actually you can see where you didn't put the butter because it don't stick down in that gap there. See? Let's have a bit of butter down in there. And then we basically make sure that we've dusted all around the inside, so a little bit more, and then the dish is ready for pouring in our batter. So now I've got some ordinary plain flour. I've got 55 grams of that. I'm going to put that through a sieve, and I'm also going to add into that a pinch of salt, okay, and then just going to sieve that into a bowl, okay, and straight into that bowl I'm going to put 50 grams of caster sugar, okay. So that's essentially the dry ingredients in, okay. So now we're just going to give that a little bit of a mix around, and we'll start adding the other ingredients. Now I've made a little well in the middle, and what we're going to add to it are 2 egg yolks. So we're going to need 2 eggs for this recipe, but we want them separated. We'll use the whites later. Now some recipes we just chuck the whole egg in, but it tends to make it a little bit stodgy. So in this recipe we're going to do the whites separately, going to whisk them up, get a bit of air into it. So we're going to put the egg yolks in, and then we're just going to whisk that all together, okay, with a little whisk, and then we got some melted butter, 20 grams of that, okay, and we'll be adding that, and you want 290 mils of milk. But before we do that, we're just going to mix that egg in. So an optional extra is some almond extract, okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of that. And then we're going to add in the milk gradually, whisking it in, incorporating it. that's the milk all in. So now we're just going to add that melted butter, and again we're just going to whisk that through to get it to be a nice fully combined batter. So at this point we now take our marinating cherries along with all the liquid. Okay, we're going to put that into that batter, and we're just going to mix that through. Okay, now I suspect my baking dish is probably going to be a little on the small side, so I've got a couple of little ramekins to make some little individual ones, okay, if needed. But what we're going to do now, we're just going to put this to one side, and this is where we're now going to take our egg whites and we're going to whisk them up. So they've whisked up. Actually, I was a bit dubious whether they would, because there was a bit of eggshell in there, but sorry, a bit of yolk got in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold some of that into that mixture, and then gradually add the rest, just gently folding it all in, because obviously we want to try and keep as much of the air in there as possible. Your oven, I don't know if I said, needs to be up at 180. Okay, and whoops, almost put that in a prepared dish. And what we will do is we will then spoon this once we've got them whites generally sort of mixed in there. We'll spoon that into the dish, and then it's going to go into the oven where we're going to cook it for about 35 minutes. Okay, when it comes out, it wants to be set, but with a bit of a slight wobble. We don't want it like set solid, as it were. Okay, so I think I can still see a few odd little traces of white there, but generally I think that's in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spoon this into my dish, mainly because I'm not sure whether this dish will be big enough. Okay, so there we go. I put it on a baking tray, just simply obviously just in case it does come over the top, so it don't make a mess in the oven. So like I said, I'm going to put that in the oven for up to 35 minutes, sorry. So that's had about 40-45 minutes, because it's quite deep. You can see there, nicely browned on top. I can hear it bubbling. I can see stuff like cherries seeping up around the outside. So that's going to do us later for dessert, but certainly not while it's on red hot. So in a minute I'm going to transfer it onto wire rack, let it cool, and when it's just warm, that's when we'll try it. Okay. So there you go, your typical French cherry clafouti. Bonjour. Oh, sorry. Au revoir.